These are the echoes of Firebird Spirit, prayers, messages, and sacred moments carried on breath and flame. No video, no distractions, just voice. For driving, for walking, for sitting still. Let the words find you, wherever you are. Because sometimes the soul hears better with its eyes closed.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Firebird Worship on this Pentecost Day, 50 days after Easter. The end of Eastertide, but not the end of celebrating, because remember, we are a resurrection people 24/7. That never changes. Those of you who are regular worshipers here will see that my backdrop has changed a little. We've done a little rehabbing here in my pantry office. And so that's why we recorded from a different location last week. But anyway, today is the fourth and final message of our springtime series, Behold the Rising, where we've been tracing the movement of the Spirit throughout the biblical narratives and ultimately into our own lives. We have looked at Saul, who became Paul, had this encounter and a flash of recognition of the Spirit, and then Mary Magdalene, who was called by name in order to recognize the risen Christ. And the third part was Thomas, who came to see Jesus and feel it kind of in his bones, in his body, where the wounds were, and to identify with those. And today, finally, we're going to talk about how the Spirit communicates with us. So, let's start with this. Imagine a world where every soul had its own way of receiving a private message from the divine, where we each have a direct line, if you will, to the great beyond or the great within. And it's delivered in your soul's native frequency, your native tongue, what speaks to you the most. Like we each have our own private hotline to that endless knowledge that's even greater than AI. All right? Imagine that. Now, for some, let's call it the frequency hotline. For some, the frequency hotline is a melody, maybe in a minor key that you can't get out of your head. For another, it might be a whisper in the wind. Or even chat boxes, surprising insight that kind of sparks directly in your soul. What if this day, Pentecost, is not just a memory of fire and sound that we'll be reading about in a little bit? What if it is a celebration of how Spirit keeps finding new ways to reach us? Let's listen for the language that she speaks in us today, okay? That will be our focal point. Pay attention to your body, to where your mind wanders while you're here, to how you feel when certain words or ideas or phrases are spoken or sung. Where do those words connect with you or resonate in your body? So as we settle into our worship space, wherever you happen to be, I invite you to pause your playback for a moment or two and think about this. If Spirit had a playlist just for you, what would be the opening track? Take a breath, listen in, and let yourself be surprised by that. If Spirit had a playlist just for you, what would be the opening track? We're glad you're here. Now, let's go think about that question for a minute, and we'll see you on the other side of a brief pause, however long you want it to be. After your break, we'll come back and we will continue with our gathering. Ready? Pause.